Hi, everyone. I know that a lot of you are feeling a lot following the election last week. I am really feeling it too. In fact, I feel emotional right now. I'm recording this. You may feel hopeless, angry, maybe full of rage. You might feel generally sad and, like I do, really scared. Because we can all relate to each other, I hope that we will comfort and support each other to weather the days ahead. This week's episode is for anyone who is upset about the election outcome or really anything else going on in your life. The episode is all about using creativity to channel and process emotions. I was originally going to drop it on just the breakups, broken hearts, and moving on feed, but because I feel it is such a valuable conversation for as many as I can share it with, I am dropping it with both of my podcasts. And a shout out to Sex and the Solo Girl listeners. Today, I talk with Carrie Osgood, a communication strategist, alternative storyteller, and educator. Carrie specializes in guiding individuals throughout their creative process. Through her personalized, comprehensive, and compassionate approach, she helps adults produce creative work that helps them achieve their goals, express their distinctive selves, and experience personal healing and meaningful connection. She is also the author of two allegorical picture books, Path to Palace and Escapades in Caves. You can purchase both at carrieosgood.com and using the links in my show notes. Please also go and join her community, Your Story GPS, also in the notes. I hope you will find this episode supportive and hopeful. As always, I hope you will reach out to me on Instagram and let me know. And with that, I am sending you so much strength for the weeks ahead. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited for this week's episode. Are you going through a breakup, recovering from a breakup, recovering possibly from something in your past that is left you feeling either stuck or unhealed? Have you ever thought about using the power of creativity to help you turn the corner on things? Well, I'm not sure if I have been that intentional about it, but my guest today has. Welcome to the podcast, Carrie Osgood, and also, yay, a member of the solo community. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Hello, dear.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Not only did we discover each other on the solo community app, and yes, definitely everybody go online. If you want to have a personal invite from me, I can add you to this. It is Dr. Peter McGraw's solo community space through the mighty app. But you know what? Go over to Instagram, ask me to add you, and I will. Not only that, but Carrie and I discovered that we are also both in Denver, which that's awesome. I've met so many people through the solo community who are right here.
Exactly. We're all locals here. It's fantastic.
Denver is a place for solos. Did you know that over 50% of people in Denver live alone?
That does not surprise me, especially in our neighborhood, which is mostly small apartments.
Yep. Lots of young, creative professionals who are just doing it for themselves. Lots of transplants. Denver is a wonderful place to be. Today, we're going to be speaking on creativity and healing. I was excited to have you on the podcast, and this was a topic that you suggested. And why would you say it's so near and dear to your heart?
It's who I am. It's what I do. It's how I make my living, but it's also my purpose. I not only create for me, I also make a living creating for others. But what I love most of everything is helping other people create whatever is coming out of them and allowing them to be authentically them.
Through creation. I'm really excited about this. Before we get started, I think it might be prudent to just get really clear about what we are talking about today, and that is creativity. What do you consider to be creativity?
So to me, creativity is the act of making something. That would just be at the core foundation of what it is. And from that, There's making things for us, making things for others, making things for the intention to create, to connect with others. There's problem solving. There's just pure expression of just getting something out of your body. That's still creative. And it's sometimes the process of creativity as well as the final product of the creation that's created. So that would be in the broadest, all the different ways that it can be used, both, again, for me professionally, but also all the work I do for myself, that's entirely for myself. That's entirely for my healing. That's entirely how I'm able to feel more centered and more connected to myself, to others, to the world at large, to nature. So it's this very powerful human life source that, we often think that there are many different pieces to it, but it really is just the act of us doing something that connects us with ourselves and the world.
That's such a beautiful definition. And I suppose per your definition, this is something that's limitless. Really?
Yeah. I mean, we start as children. We just act of like just making things in sandboxes or cooking or baking or Play-Doh or Legos or all of these things, just that there's a primal act, coloring, that's just as it's a human instinct for us to just connect and make something. And sometimes we focus on the final product or who it's for. But oftentimes that's purely therapeutic, is reconnecting us to that childhood love of just making something, to just make it, and that satisfaction of having made something. I made
yourself.
Cool.
And sometimes for others, but often just for yourself too.
Often just for yourself.
When I was little, I used to get all the knickknacks in the house, all of my mom's empty spools. She was a sewer. All the little people figurines of Fisher Price. And there was a shelf underneath my dad's record player. And I would make cities out of all of them.
Exactly.
And I would just sit there for hours, just myself.
Exactly. And it's such a centering, satisfying act. Whatever it is.
Can you think of something from your childhood? I know I'm putting you on the spot. So.
No. I mean, I was a maker. My mom also loves making things as well, which is interesting how her specialties are the opposite of what I do. So for her, she was all about cooking and sewing and baking and dancing. And so I became much more about art and design and performance and writing and these other art forms. But as a child, I was very active in arts and crafts because it was something my mom and I would do together.
Yeah.
And so I actually would make everything, tons and tons of stuff, and submit it to be in our county fair. I grew up in a small town in northern New Mexico.
Oh, this is so cool. I was obsessed with the state fair growing up, and not because of the rides or the animals, but all the little exhibits that people would turn in.
Exactly.
I was the only one in my family who would want to go in there.
Exactly. But for me, there was actually an article written about me in my local paper when I was 9 years old for how many things I had made and contributed to our county fair.
Oh, can you give me an example? This is so neat.
A lot of it was dictated by projects that my mom would do. So it would be like needlepoint or paper mache, or I would sew things, or it was just my mom saw that I loved to make. And I loved, and so she just sort of channeled and kept giving me these activities for me to do. But at the same time, even what my parents wrote about me in their annual letters that they did.
Yes.
Back in the day.
My God.
when I was 2 and 3, there was like, Carrie can't stop coloring and cutting and making. Like it was just an innate quality that I've always had that fortunately my parents allowed me to nurture it and to follow it and to continue to have it be everything I studied academically. And I ultimately went to art school for graduate school, and then to have a multi-decade creative career. But it all comes down to still me tapping into that love of just making something to feel connected.
If you saw me jotting down something, it's because my boyfriend and I are coming up with this list of band names, and I put Carrie can't stop coloring as a band name. Chris,
Well,
gonna
I will bring it back to that. I do plan to
Okay,
talk
Carrie
about bring that
can't
up
stop
again.
coloring. Okay, go on.
Because there was a time in my life, multiple times, both in my childhood and in my adulthood, when I couldn't stop coloring. So I get that.
Very
I
cute.
get that.
Okay. So, okay, you've talked about coloring as a as a child and other creative pursuits. What then prompted you to investigate or explore or use creativity as a healing modality?
Absolutely. So to me, it was when I was in high school, when I was really active in theater and film, theater and music.
I did
That was
theater
like,
too. Yeah.
yeah. So I was just, that was like, I did like the crafts and the fine arts. And then when it was time for middle school and high school, like I want to be in the social arts. And so I was very active in that world. And because I was both a singer and I loved directing and being like the stage manager and the backstage stuff, I really learned a lot from Stephen Sondheim, the composer lyricist for Broadway shows, who's just an absolute legend. And I ended up studying him. And one of his quotes that really ran deep to me is art in itself is an attempt to bring order out of chaos. And and it was also, the 90s. So there was the music of Alanis Morissette and Tori Amos. I was listening to all these women who were like just very, just putting themselves out there. And
Yeah,
even,
they were. Tori is still my favorite artist.
oh, I love
Yep,
her
my absolute
so
favorite
much.
artist is Tori Amos.
Oh, yeah. So yes.
I saw her at Red Rocks. I saw her at Red Rocks last year.
Oh, yes. She was there last year.
It was crazy.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. And she's actually was my biggest influence. I mean, granted, you have people like Joni Mitchell and Carole King that she built upon, but, Tori specifically is the one that inspired me to start on my own. I just started writing lyrics to bring order out of chaos. And I had this sort of framework of just getting things out there and then crafting it. And that started around in college whenever I was dealing with something that was dark, I found myself just putting something out there to help me turn something dark into something beautiful. And the act of channeling that order out of chaos, like I'm just feeling this chaos, let me get this chaos out of me. And then being able to turn it into something beautiful and outside of me and something that it could be finished on a shelf. And I was no longer feeling it and spiraling within myself. That became a tool that I use to this day. That when I'm feeling something very intense, I just have to get it out there and then turn it into something else. And sometimes I'll do sketches, but usually for me, it's the word. It really depends on whatever works for you. But and then I've always been journaling. And I know you talk a lot about journaling in your practice. And journaling, I also started regularly also in college around this same time. And so sometimes I'll be just expressing something of just venting thoughts or having conversations with myself. And then I'll find turns of phrases that then I'm like, oh no, I can't talk about this literally. I need to start talking about this metaphorically to start channeling that order out of chaos. So that's how it became very therapeutic for me.
A lot of my clients do use journaling as a way to heal from a breakup. Is there maybe a certain way that you might recommend using journal writing to heal from something like that? As far as either saying goodbye to someone or closing the door on a relationship or healing with or dealing with feelings inside that are so hard to even explain to other people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are many things. And so, there are definitely all the prompts of like, writing a letter to them that you don't send or, just expressing everything that you feel like I'm really upset because, and to acknowledge all of the feelings that you're feelings. Those would be other things when you're doing more of the traditional writing. But one thing for me that's especially important for your listeners is that there isn't a one size fits all. That's the main thing. Like in terms of, you're going to be a lot more willing to journal if you have a book that feels right to you, whether it's a spiral bound, a lined rule, the size of the book, the size of the book, the binding of the book, the paper quality of the book, the lines of the book. if it feels inviting to you, you'll write in it. If it doesn't feel like it's suiting you, you might not as much. And that's same with just how the writing utensils, whether it's a pencil, a pen, colored pens. I've gotten into colored pens lately.
Okay.
So sometimes what I do is, depending on the color that I'm feeling that day, that's the color that I use. Because again, I did go to art school. I do professionally create using color. And so to me, sometimes it's a sky blue day. Sometimes it's a dark purple day. Sometimes it's a green day or a magenta day. So that's something I've been doing in recent years since COVID that has added to my flavor of journaling. But then I also have, my gratitude journal, which is a very different kind of journal. It's smaller. It's much more the practice of, trying to just remind myself to reframe my thoughts, to find the positive in things. And sometimes I'm in such a dark, dark place that I then say, I'm just going to say all the negative things, but then I have to say that many positive things afterwards. And that's another journaling practice that I have definitely used when I'm going through very dark, dark challenges. There's one other piece I wanted to say, is that there's also the sketchbook that can be, and which is just more the blank book that can be.
I'm getting out my
you're pulling up all your stuff.
I know, I'm getting out all my sketchbooks right now, because one of my things that I'm creative about is I have very good handwriting, if I do say so myself.
Yes.
And so I practice, yes, in these books, just different things. Ooh, this is one that I don't even know when I did this. Can you read it? Probably not. It says, I am passionately in love with myself. If you think that writing a gratitude journal is some sort of cliche or just something that people say, no, we are doing it.
No. I mean, for me, with the gratitude journal, I had a very dark time in my life where I basically had to blow everything up and start over. And I was in order for me to shift, to be able to embrace the positive and mentally get myself out of that darkness, that gratitude journal was I didn't realize until, 3 months, 6 months later, I'm like, why am I not angry anymore? Why are suddenly good things happening? And I was like, oh, that's right. I was doing the gratitude journal practice, but giving myself the flexibility to do it in the way that worked best for me. There's no wrong way to just let out whatever it is you need to let out and start organizing whatever thoughts are in your head. And that act of brainstorming and brain dumping is extraordinarily therapeutic. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you want the order and the structure of lines, and sometimes you don't. And sometimes you want to doodle, and sometimes you want to use your scissors and cut things in. And again, collages and mood boards and vision boards.
I was doing it last night, working on another collage. Carrie, a lot of people associate creativity with art, specifically maybe something that you would make. In fact, a lot of people might not even consider journaling or doodling creativity. I certainly do. But what are some other ways that people either are creative or can be creative other than, like sculpturing or drawing or, spray painting?
Absolutely. So, I mean, to me, that's, when you're talking about what is art. And so often you're talking sort of the visual arts, the tactile, physical. And granted, I do have one of my best friends, when she needs therapy, she just goes and takes a ceramics class because of the act of the touching and the feeling of that process. Mm-hmm. Whatever sensory it is. But when we talk about the definition of art, there are the literary arts, which is any type of writing, really. You have the culinary arts, type of cooking or baking.
Listen, I didn't think about cooking as a way to be creative. I just like to get in there and get it done. But that might be an outlet for a lot of people.
Absolutely. For some people, the act of cooking or baking and just making something that feels good for you is incredible. You also have just, the art of physical movement. And sometimes it's just, I got to move. But then you might start feeling a rhythm and you might start saying, oh, actually, I want to turn this into something. And so it really is, anything can be creative in whatever it is that you're connecting. But in terms of specific definitions, because I also teach this stuff at the university level, when we're talking about art, in the classes that I teach, so I teach some fine art classes. I teach design classes. I teach business classes and journalism classes. So I teach this big umbrella, but everything is about creative communications and storytelling. So what does that mean? So art is just expression. It's something that just comes out of you because it needs to. And it's the expression typically of an individual, but sometimes it's collaborative. But it's art in the broadest definition is expression, and you can express through food, you can express through the traditional arts, but you can express through sports. Some of the best athletes in the world, like basketball players, the way they twirl the basketball. All of those things can be. It turns an act into an art because it becomes this personal expression.
I would say, for me, I get really, really, really into putting my outfits together. And that's become something that energizes me. It is something that's really fun for me. It's something that makes me feel really relaxed after. And I've even said recently, like, clothes are my hobby.
And clothes is an art form, fashion design, wardrobe, style, coming up with your style signature, how you're going to present yourself into the world is extraordinarily creative. Story is when you're specifically creating something to connect with someone else. So you need an audience for a story. Okay. And not everything that's created for other people, like cooking a great meal, is a story per se, but you can turn it into, when you have the finest chefs and dining experiences, they give it this path and this overall experience. The biggest part of creativity for healing is the act of feeling your feelings. Because when you've been through trauma, oftentimes like, no, I'm going to suppress it. I'm going to suppress it. I'm going to suppress it. I just need to push through and suppress it. And then the damage it can do to your body is extraordinary. And I've had that experience of having lots of health issues years later, completely tied to me not always feeling my feelings when I was in my darkest hour. And so that's why now I'm so much more active with my creative process to just, if I'm feeling anything, I gotta feel it. Just let myself feel whatever it is, to let it escape my body. So then it becomes this other thing I can work with instead of just living inside of me like this demon, just dancing around inside, just out to just make chaos for me. For ourselves and others. And it does tie to breakups. You've got to let it out. You've got to allow yourself to grieve. What you're saying about your health issues brings me kind of to something else I was curious about. Mm-hmm. And perhaps this is why it was so on your mind to discuss this. Do you have something more recent that has prompted you to focus on this and do some creating? Yes, very much so. Very much so. Because this past year has been quite a journey for me. Because it's the first time that something or two things that I created for my own personal healing, I'm sharing with the world. And most of the work I've created up until this point is in my professional side of creativity. So journalism, I was a journalist for 12 years at the Associated Press. Business, graphic design, branding, all of that creative for hire work that I've done. And that's what I'm known for. And so these two things, I've created a pair of allegorical picture books, which are children's books for adults that don't really fit into specific categories, but they definitely fit into the genre. So I'm pushing beyond what's possible with these two stories. And the first one, I wrote the story called Path to the Palace, and I wrote it in 2008 after a trip. And it was when I was really struggling with what I can now call being a solo. But at the time, I didn't have a definition. It was just the world saying to go one way. Everybody's saying, this is the path you're supposed to be on. You're supposed to get married, have kids, get the dog, get the house, everything. And it just wasn't working for me. And so I had this travel experience that I discovered I could turn into a metaphorical story. And I just suddenly just wrote it. And it's called Path to the Palace. And it's about when you're trying to go one way and what everybody's telling you to do. And then you just have to go your own way that everybody tells you not to do, but it ends up being the best thing for you. Mm-hmm. And it was some story that I loved I didn't know what to do with. It just came out of me. And then it just lived on my hard drive for 15 years. I had no idea what to do with it because it's like, how do I visualize it? Do I illustrate it? And just everything, just the act of sharing it became too daunting. And then, flash forward to last year, which would be 15 years later, I was really grieving a lot of the loss I was having during COVID, but especially the loss of the biggest forest fire in New Mexican history decimated my childhood playground in northern New Mexico.
Oh my
So
God.
basically, everything that was my most treasured land in the world burned to crisp. And I was also healing from my own physical traumas, but it was just there was just this darkness, and I needed to figure out how to work through it.
Yeah.
And when I went back to Past the Palace, I'm like, that's the story. It's an inspirational allegoric. It's an allegory. And so I then wrote the book Escapades in Caves that I'm specifically writing about the places that meant so much to me as my healing of keeping it alive in my feelings and emotions through that process. But I had this structure and format from Past the Palace to now they had a buddy. They were two.
Love
And then I'm
it.
like, how do I visualize it? And I'm like, I have photos from these places. I have my photography. And so with my photography for Escapades in Caves, and I'm like, I have the photography for Paths to the Palace as well. And so they each helped bring both of them to life into fully formed picture books. And I was able to polish them while the creativity part of it was entirely for my personal healing. I then was able to polish it and share it with the world to help other people through their healing, because these are universal stories. Another quote is, what's most personal is most universal. These stories are meant to be incredibly universal about the challenges of going through the world on your own and finding your place in that.
Can you please say each one of the titles and where everybody can find them?
Yes. So the books are called Path to the Palace and Escapades in Caves.
Another great band name.
And they both can be found on my websites, carrieosgood.com, as well as yourstorygps.com. And yourstorygps.com is also the place where I help other people create whatever it is for them, whether it's for their professional goals or for personal healing.
Oh, mind blown. I will put both of these things in the show notes. Everybody, go and check both of these out. And also, I have an ebook. It's called The Broken Heart Repair Kit, and it walks you through my 3-step method to heal your breakup or to heal from your breakup. And I have a lot of opportunities to get very artsy and creative in that. So that's also in the show notes. Everybody, go load yourself up with resources.
And also, these are going to be great holiday gifts. When you want to give yourself a hug and give other people a hug, that's what these books are for.
Super. Let's do it, everyone. Carrie, for people out there who don't consider themselves to be creative, I do think that for a lot of people, it's either I am or I'm not. What are some ways to get started, particularly if there is someone listening who's on the healing journey?
So this is when I could talk back about coloring.
Okay.
Because adult coloring books are proven to help people therapeutically. And there's no wrong or right way to do it. You have an image and you just start coloring, and you can color in the lines or color outside the lines. And they helped me tremendously through a year of my life where I couldn't stop coloring. I became very obsessive of just coloring all the time, because I was able to turn off that part of my brain it was work, and have it turn into play. And it felt like play again. So adult coloring books would be one. It taps into your inner child. And so they become very therapeutic of just turning off your mind. It gives you ability, you're focusing on something, but you're not spiraling anymore. You have to focus enough, and they're complicated enough that you do have to have some focus, but it also forces you to relax through that process. So adult coloring books, I'm a huge, huge fan for when you're just burnt out and beat up and you're like, I don't even know what to do. I can't do anything. It's beautiful. They're beautiful. And there's also just going past that, if you want to take it forward, there is a whole genre of therapy called art therapy. And there are people who are trained art therapists but you can just go to Amazon and get the books that are the highest rated and just play with some of those exercises where it's just play with Play-Doh or put a collage together, but it helps guide you. It's kind of like journal prompts, but it's for creativity to just help you reframe what's in your mind to release that tension. And so
and
they're
a healthy distraction
exactly
as well.
healthy distractions. And then obviously I mentioned cooking and baking, if that's something that you want to do, dancing, because again, when it's for therapy, it's for you. Dance as if no one's watching, it's that same kind of feeling. Don't judge yourself about being good or perfect. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. The act is just doing it. And if you want to be perfect in quotes, that's when you have things like doing Legos, doing these complex puzzles.
I'm liking the Legos thing. I have lots of male listeners who think they're nerdy. They're into Legos. No, I think being into, Lego is very cool, very therapeutic, a great way to distract yourself. And yeah, go get a new set and just sit down.
Absolutely.
And go to town.
And actually, I had just watched, I watched both of them, so I can't remember which documentary was this, but I was watching the two documentaries about South Park, the South Park guys. So there's a new one about Casa Bonita, and then there's the one that came out in 2011, I think, called 6 Days to Air. That's about how they make South Park in a week. But the thing that stood out to me was Trey Parker, who of the two guys who lead South Park, he's the creative lead. So he does the directing and the writing.
Oh, gotcha.
And he is obsessed with Lego sets because that's how
Trey
he's able
Parker.
to create. He's able to create, but relax. He doesn't have to make any decisions. The decisions are made for him, but he can still make and use tap into that relaxing piece of what he's working with. And I had a period when I was all about like Ukrainian wooden puzzles, where it's just these.
That's specific.
It was very specific. I discovered it. It was a path it was a year of my life. I was obsessed with them, but they brought me so much comfort and calm because with those puzzles, you actually get a scent with the wood on your fingers. And so just that multi-sensory feeling. They were amazing. They were amazing. But then I moved on to, I now do digital puzzles online. I'm now a little lazier on that stuff, but all of those things, they're all ways to, you don't always have to make the decisions. Sometimes just like get some paint and throw it against a wall, get some canvas and just throw paint. Just play with paint, see what happens. Just get the materials and work with them. Cause again, it's the act of expressing, for yourself or being able to use the problem solving part of creativity. One or the other is going to help you relax that other piece, whatever is spinning inside of you.
Get the materials and go from there. And again, once you find a material or a medium that just speaks to you, the rest will fall into place. Everything I do I love flowers. This in the background is like a lifestyle for me. And so something that I would recommend is we've mentioned a couple times, collage. I've been doing decoupage since I was a kid. And if you're looking for a healthy distraction, that's very therapeutic. I just collect magazines. And then sometimes I will just spend hours going through them and just cutting out the flowers, which it is so relaxing. And then afterwards, figuring out what I'm going to do with them.
That sounds incredibly therapeutic. That sounds wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because just to get to my art design faculty head, because I do, in terms of teaching, I teach art and design as well as journalism and business communications. So sort of everything in that realm is what I teach. So one of the things is that we talk about when you're academically learning this stuff is look out into the world. You're not creating something from nothing. Sometimes having a source or having an image that inspires you or that search, that journey of exploratory, of finding whatever is out there, that's part of the creative process. The looking, the searching because nobody creates from nothing. Nobody creates from nothing. There's always some piece of you, some inspiration, some emotion, some action, some pain. There's something that's triggering something, and looking out into the world for that inspiration, like just looking for flowers and cutting them up. not only the act of looking, but also just reminding you how beautiful flowers are and
Yeah.
finding that comfort of seeing that positive in those senses when you're feeling so negative and dark.
All I'm thinking right now is screw my evening plans. I just want to sit around and cut out flowers. We've talked a lot about healing. What about just simple self-discovery and art or creativity?
Well, by default, that's what it is. I think
Yeah,
part
I
of,
guess you're right.
I think one of the biggest things, which we're just repeating on, but at the same time, it's because it's so important, is it's what's going to be right for you. And everybody's going to say, try this, try that. This is what worked best for me. And so those are things to try. See what works for other people. Try out these different techniques. It's same as, again, going back to food, trying different recipes to see which ones you like best. It's that same kind of process of just going out and learning and growing and tapping into when you feel that click of connection.
Yes, it's intuition. And some people are not in touch with that. And so if you would consider yourself to be one of those people, just go and try to find something and tell yourself you will land on something when you feel the click. And you might not feel it right away. It might take you a little bit, but just continually tell yourself that it will come, because it does.
Absolutely. It does. And then the other piece I want to tell people about that is that you may not be looking. And suddenly there'll just be this moment when you feel this lightning bolt strike you. And in that moment, that's the beauty of cell phones. I am so grateful now that cell phones are, because then I can write down those ideas whenever they come to me and I don't lose them. Songwriters talk about that a lot, how they're just a vessel. They were just there and then it came.
Yeah.
And they're just in this rhythm. And so you're coming to this place where you're ready for it. But the point being is, if you start feeling something, don't shy away from it. Document it, write it down. What caused it? What is the thing that made you suddenly feel the click? Because the more you start discovering how you get the click, sometimes you have to look for it, but sometimes it comes to you. And when it does, document it. Just document it, because you never know. I've had amazing moments when, like, a challenge I've been working on for weeks or months, then suddenly I'll be going for a walk and it just clicks. And so I stop, get my phone and write it all down, because otherwise it goes away and you don't remember it. So always document whenever that click happens.
Oh, I feel emotional because this is just such a beautiful way to go about life. And I assure you, everybody, once you do start this, you'll see art and beauty everywhere you go. And I was also going to ask you, as far as the click goes, is this how you discovered Ukrainian wood puzzles?
I discovered Ukrainian wood puzzles at the Denver Art Museum.
Okay.
They have art museums are amazing places to get creative therapy pieces. Amazing. They use art museum wherever you are, whatever town you're in. If there's an art museum store, check it out, because that's where I've often found some. Because, like, I found one at the art museum in New Orleans. That was where a Buddha brush, where you paint on something that will constantly go away. As another, there are tons of tools.
Interesting.
So the Ukrainian wooden puzzles I discovered there, and I got one. Like, oh, this is cool. And then I started getting them online, and it became this really rewarding journey for me for that year. Then I kind of moved on to another thing, but but that was where I found it. And so there are stores that have creative toys, creative puzzles, things that are ways to help adults can reconnect them to their childhood and that childness, because it is so therapeutic. It's a healing. And it's not for, the act of creating for other people to make it perfect and be, recognized for your amazing work. That's a job, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes years to be able to focus on that. And if you want to do it, great. I've been on that journey as well. It's amazing, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about today is specifically about the healing powers of creativity and just making for yourself. And sometimes if you're making for other people, and it's a collaborative process, great. If you want to make something for somebody else to like, ask them what they like. Because if you just make something and then want them to say, look how great it is, that's not the intention. The intention is creating for you and then, or creating for others, and separating that. And both can be very therapeutic, but recognizing that difference, especially for those of you going through breakups, especially for those of you who's like, oh, if I just give them something, then they'll love me again. No, it doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. But if you work through your emotions into something that's really cool, that's Fleetwood Mac. That's so many songs have been written about people. Yeah, they're saying it to their faces, but because it's in a creative form of art, No Doubt was another band where it was like, Gwen Stefani was in a relationship with the bass player. She wrote Don't Speak. And his reply was, yeah, she's talking about me the whole time and she's really upset, but it's her art and it's a great song. And so he plays this song to this day, their biggest hit, because it was
Just a Girl is up there as well. No Doubt was my first concert.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's fantastic. To me, it was more just in that period of what is art versus creating it for other people. And I'm thinking specifically for the breakup piece where
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Where it's like if you're creating something to try to talk to that person, that might not work. But if you're creating something because you're working through your emotional challenges, then it can thaw what's going on between the two of you.
Yeah. I mean, Jagged Little Pill, I think, was motivated by some of her real life experitions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and it's what Taylor Swift does today.
I was going to mention, yes.
Mm-hmm. There's a long history of people, especially through songwriting, through lyrics, to just get their emotions out. And sometimes, and a lot of the biggest hits have just been people working through their stuff. And the act of working through it then makes it more universal and people are really tapping into it. I watch a lot of music documentaries and, it's popular music documentaries. But it's a theme that comes up over and over again. And because it became one of my tools, that again, it's not for anybody else. I don't share them with other people, but I'll reread them for myself. Because when I reread them, it reminds me of my growth. It reminds me of that's something I went through, but I'm not going through it now. When you're able to create something, there's the journal entries that are just the act of doing. But when you turn whatever it is into something that you can put on the shelf, and sometimes it's buried in cobwebs, and then you dust it off, like, oh, this was this thing that made me more resilient. It made me stronger. It made me feel more. It helped me become on the other side of that big, huge heartbreak. Those reminders are beautiful too, because again, you're taking something dark and turning it into something beautiful.
Thank you so much for that. I journal when I am mad normally at an ex, and anybody who's looking to use all these tips from Carrie and be able to look back on the other side of it, if you are journaling or letter writing to heal from a breakup, do not hold back. Sometimes I look back on some of these journal entries and again, I'm using this pen and the paper is actually ripped because I'm writing so hard because I'm angry and using curse words, calling them names, whatever comes to you. And
absolutely.
Same with dancing, creating art. Go in there and cook up a storm. Learn how to make some sort of fiery cocktail that's going to remind you.
Go to the thrift store and just come up with this really incredible outfit that's going to make you, whatever it is, whatever can help you transform, get out those feelings and transform them into something else. So it's no longer in you and it becomes this other thing. And sometimes that other thing is sad and dark, but it's still beautiful. And sometimes it's happy and it is inspiring. It doesn't matter. It's just the act of getting it out of your body. And I know sometimes when I've been in my extra dark places, I haven't been able to journal because the act of journaling makes it too real. It's too dark. It's too confrontational. I need to escape. I need to not think about this because that's the most therapeutic thing. And that's the beauty of having all of these other tools at your disposal. Is whatever you're feeling in that moment, Sometimes journaling is the only thing. Sometimes you need to dance it out or sing in the shower. It doesn't matter as long as you're working through whatever it is and acknowledging that there's no wrong way. It's just your way. And that's the best way.
There's something that Regina Thomas Hauer, aka Mama Gina, the author of the book Pussy, talks about is called swamping. And that's where you get out all of your saddest songs or the songs that bring up maybe the most, like I said, sadness or anger or rage and put them on. And then just, like punch a pillow or just walk around and throw your hands and just get really angry with your body and just listening to it. So not necessarily dancing, but just letting it out of your body in response to the music, which I think could be very creative.
Oh, for me, other people's music can inspire an extraordinary amount. I mean, we've already talked about several musicians already in this as in our conversation, but it's just music in general. It's so primal and so emotional, and it can help us really tap into things. And sometimes listening to whatever it is and getting whatever emotion is that we need to get out. When we start feeling cleansed, that's when we're like, oh, I need to make something now. And I know what it's going to be. And we have a clarity of direction for how to get us out of whatever funk that was in.
And I don't mention this enough, but I have curated 4 or 5 different playlists on Spotify for my listeners. And I have one that's angry. I have one that's sad. I have one that's hopeful. I have one for self-love. And everyone, I will link all of those in the show notes. I really should let people know that more often because people love them and they are, yes, very helpful. And depending on your mood, really going to get you there. Carrie, before we wrap up, I love to hear from my listeners what they would tell someone who is hurting, going through the healing journey. You sound like you've gone there and back more than once. What would you like to say to someone listening who's going through it as well?
You're not alone. Your feelings are valid. You have permission to feel your feelings. And you matter. You contribute to the world. And I think specifically when it comes to breakups, but really any type of trauma, so often we talk about how the most important way to connect is with connecting with other people. And what I've learned is that, and it comes from the arts, it comes from storytelling, where in terms of different conflicts, you have, character versus character, man versus man. But you also have the characters versus their environment or with their environment, as well as characters with themselves. And so when you want to just feel connected, and that's so much of the challenge when we're at our darkest, is we just don't feel connected. And we're so used to connecting with other people, and especially a specific person that isn't there. And we want to connect with that person. Yes, we still need to have human connection. We still need to feel that warm touch. But nature is also, we can get so much beauty and feel so connected when we're with the outside world. And through creativity, we can also feel especially connected to ourselves. And the creative process is an extraordinary way to feel really deeply grounded and still feel like you matter, because you made this thing that didn't exist before, and you made this thing, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And the act of you making it means that you have a purpose and a place in this beautiful world we have.
Thank you. You are not only brilliant, but beautiful. And I'm so glad that we did this episode. I am feeling so inspired and energized right now.
Yay.
And like I said, ready to get out my scissors. I started doing a collage last night and I'm really feeling it in my body. Thank you so much for being here. If anybody gets out there and gets creative, send me a picture on Instagram. I would love to share it with Carrie. Go and check out her books. Everything's linked in the show notes. And if you are going through a breakup, I am wishing you so much strength for the week ahead. Thank you for listening to Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On with Janice Formicella. I sincerely hope that you found today's episode inspirational or useful. I would love to support you on your healing journey. All you have to do is send me a message on Instagram at Breakups Podcast or email me at breakupspodcast@gmail.com, and I will be in touch to get you started. Remember, if you are struggling with a broken heart, your feelings are temporary. I am sending you so much love and luck for the week ahead. You've got this.